Welcome back to modded Kerbal Space Program career mode. In the last episode, we performed our first docking maneuver in orbit of Kerbin, and then we sent our docking target vessel out to the moon to do a ScanSat survey there. So let's take a look at what contracts are available now. We've already accepted that we're going to put a Kerbal in orbit for 30 days, and we want to build a station around Minmus. And if I look at what's available now, we now have an orbital station around Kerbin. Does not require liquid fuel. There's still a moon contract orbital station, but it still has liquid fuel in it, so we don't want that. But we'll take this Kerbin one. What I would like to do right now is to launch that Kerbin station and use that in synergy with our put Kerbal in orbit for 30 days. But actually, I think I want to unlock a little bit more science before I do that, because there's some things I just want to include on the station that aren't available yet. So let's look at other contracts we could use to earn. What I need is probably another 100-ish science. And there's these ones that we've been ignoring. Explore the moon probe, so land a probe on the moon and recover it. And same for Minmus. So maybe we ought to just take these two contracts and knock them out real quick. Accept. And accept. Okay, I think I have my moon lander vessel here. Pretty simple. It's a probe core with TM report and radiation scan. Data capacity turned up. We've also got a 2-hot thermometer for science. And I included a Mystery Goo because this is supposed to be a recovered mission, so we should be able to recover that. The thing about a recovered probe mission is that it has to survive re-entry, of course, so the whole thing's enclosed in a service bay and has a heat shield under it. Parachute on top. We've got solar and antennas. And then underneath all that, we've just got a small fuel tank and one of these pug engines and 3 landing legs. 3 is the correct number for landing legs, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So all said and done, that's a just under 2-ton craft. We probably want to have a lunar transfer stage below that, because this doesn't have enough delta V to transfer and land and get back to orbit and come home. So we're going to want to have a transfer stage down here, and then a lower section to get it into orbit. And I think we've got our launch vessel here, so here's the transfer stage. It's just a little bit bigger fuel tank and a Terrier engine. And then this bottom section should be enough to maybe not quite get into orbit. I think it'll be like 200 or 300 meters per second short, but pretty close, and the transfer stage can take over from there. I don't think there's anything else we need to add to this. It's a pretty simple craft, so let's face east, and ooh, what did I just do? Let's face east and go to the launch pad. Turn our science on. Except for the Mystery Goo, we're going to save that. Displays open. You know, I just noticed this should be staged with that. Bring gravity turn up. Auto stage off. Time warp on. Launch. You know, these should be staged together too. My staging is a little wonk at the moment, but we'll get it. Just realized we might as well run the Mystery Goo now because it's got 3 samples on board and we only need 1 at the moon. So the other 2 samples can do flying low and flying high at Kerbin. About to run out of fuel on that stage. Let's drop it. I said let's drop it. Okay, let's plan a moon encounter. Set as target. Eyeball that burn to be right about in here. I suppose our orbit doesn't matter too much. We could go retrograde, but let's not, just for the sake of it's weird. That looks good to me. So since the burn time is 55 seconds, we'll do it when we're at like 27 seconds. Fire engines. That seems quite low. It's a little low, yeah, 7,400. Let's point retrograde and we'll just do a very small burn to pull that up into like the 15 or 20k range. 7.4k might actually be low enough to collide with a mountain if you were unlucky. I don't know how high the highest mountains on the moon are. Okay, that was more than I wanted, but We'll live with it. Okay, so now we're just going to time warp down to periapsis. And let's burn down into a circular-ish orbit. I'm not trying to get her super exact, but just basically circular. Now where do we want to land at? So, let me take a look at this. Where have we already landed? I want to go somewhere we can get new science. So we've been to Midlands, Twin Craters, and Lowlands. Do we have enough scanning done to see those yet? I don't know. Doesn't... Oh, yeah, we got a fair amount of scanning done now. Okay, we just need to pick a spot that's not Twin Craters. What was it? Twin Craters, Midlands, or Lowlands. So let's target this, which is apparently East Farside Crater. There's a canyon here. Canyons. Interesting. Let's target East Farside Crater because it's big. You can see now how handy ScanSat can be, these biome maps. So let's turn retrograde, put the landing marker on, and burn. We want to put the landing marker somewhere in the crater here. There we go. So we're going to have to ditch this lower stage before we land, of course, because the landing legs, they're not that long. Impact in 116 seconds, estimated suicide burn 21 seconds. Now, you might think that if this is a suicide burn, you want to go full throttle when they match. My experience is that you don't, actually. You want to go to about 2/3. Let's do that. Because I guess this isn't an actual suicide burn calculation. There's some margin of error kept in it, and that's why you don't need to go to full throttle. Because a true suicide burn, you would go to full throttle at the last possible moment. I'm going to ditch that and go full throttle here. There we go, we can throttle down now. Looks like we've got a relatively safe landing zone here. Oh, you know what? I forgot to deploy the landing legs. Stand up. There we go. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Okay, so. What are we doing? Explore Moon, probe, flyby Moon, landed on Moon. Why haven't we completed these things yet? I guess that's down in here. A little confused with how this is calculating these. But what we want to do is sit here until... Oh, you know what? Solar panels can't see the sky very well on this orientation, can they? We may not have the electric charge to do all this science. I'm going to time warp and let our science run, and hopefully we finish the science before we run out of VC. Yeah, I think we're good. All of our science is complete now. Let's do this the normal way. So let's ascend to orbit right now. So we're going to take off and turn towards the 90-degree marker. And bring the landing legs in. And we're going to aim for apoapsis of like 20K. Why are you drifting so much? There he goes. Now it's controlling properly. There's clearly some sort of a weight imbalance. Maybe this thing has picked up mass since it has samples on board? Is that a thing with Kerbalism? I don't know. It might be, you know? And then our ejection burn to get down to Kerbin should be somewhere in this area. I'm not going to try to plan it. Let's just eyeball it. We'll just bring this down to like 45 kilometers. 41. Okay with 41. Still got nearly 400 delta V in the tank. We'll just use that as a decel burn. Acceleration. Let's close the service bay for safety's sake. Turn retrograde. We don't want to burn this part off. That's for sure. Start the engine. There we go. I'm going to turn off SES and just let the aerodynamics on the heat shield keep us oriented. And let's deploy the parachute. And world's first complete. We have returned from the surface of the moon. Now, why didn't you give me this contract? We did escape trajectory on the moon, we landed on the moon, and we returned. Crew capacity, none. Was complete. Tagged as a probe and not relay. Oh, we're probably tagged as a relay. That is a very picky reason for us to fail that contract, so we're going to use the cheat thing again. Explore the moon, probe, complete. There we go. Recover vessel. Now basically we're going to launch that same mission again. Go into Minmus. Okay, we'll take this and this. Okay. We're going to launch essentially that same mission again, except we're going to Minmus this time instead of to the moon. Rename vessel. See, it's tagged as relay. Let's change it to probe. Okay. This mission is not exactly the same because we're launching to Minmus now, and Minmus isn't on an inclined orbit. I don't think I've actually launched to Minmus orbit yet in this series, so I'll show you how I like to do this. Since I know the moon's orbit is not inclined, I like to move my view so that I'm looking straight along the plane of the moon's orbit. That's when you get a straight line here. And then I shift back and forth until Minmus's orbit crosses behind Kerbin. Right through the middle, doesn't have to be exact, just close. Right about there. So I want to launch while the Space Center is either right on this side of the planet or right on that side of the planet, right where these cross. Just so happens that I'm actually there now. I don't have to do any time warping, but normally I would have to time warp around until the Space Center either pops up right here or right on the opposite side. So we're going to be launching on this side. That means we need to go north to get into the same inclination that Minmus is in. And Minmus is on about a 6-degree inclination, so we're going to be launching to aim for about 6 degrees north of east. So instead of going straight to 90 degrees, we're going to be aiming just a little bit, and I'm not trying to get 6 degrees exactly, but just a little bit north of east. Since this is the first time we're doing one of these launches, I won't use gravity turn mod this time. I'll fly it manually just to show you. So SAS on, throttle up, ignite. And let's rotate so that our downwards facing point here is a little bit north of east. Otherwise we're going to do the typical thing, so when we get to 70 meters per second we're going to bring the nose down to like 70-75 degrees of elevation. And we're going to hold there until we get to 4 kilometers, and then we're going to click prograde. All the while we're going to watch TWR and keep it below 2. I like to run between 1.8 and 2. You can open this rendezvous tab since we have Minmus set as a target, and it'll tell us our relative inclination. We're just going to run that down to roughly 0 and keep it there. It's really hard to keep it at an exact point, so we're just going to keep it as close as we can. Not worry about being exact. We're about to have to kick off that lower stage. Loop. And we're just going to aim for a typical circular safe orbit. And let's plan our Minmus encounter. Do this basically the same way you do the moon, eyeballing it down. We're a whole orbit away from where we want to be. That's great. So we're going to do it about here. Prograde. And we're half a degree off, as you saw in our readout up here. So we shouldn't need to do any sort of a plane change to get where we want to be. Oh, there's a moon encounter there. Feels like it's kind of screwing me up a little bit. You know what? I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait so we can get away from that moon encounter. Okay, now let's try that. There we go. Now without the moon pulling us out of the proper plane, we can get our encounter pretty easily. Okay, so let's point the nose at the maneuver vector. We'll time warp a little closer. We've got a burn 9 of 59 seconds, so we're going to aim to start this at 30 seconds. Engines on. Seems to have not really worked at all, to be honest. Let's put a mid-course correction node and fix this. Okay, there we go. Let's point towards the maneuver vector again. I think that ended up off of where we wanted to be because of this this weight imbalance, this greasiness I was talking about, where it doesn't want to point directly. It doesn't want to point directly forward when it's under throttle. Now let's do a mid-course correction burn in the anti-normal direction. That'll bring us right down. $124 meters. That might be a little bit too close. Now let's deal with this 100 meters encounter range thing. So we want to point in the radial out direction. It's one of these two blue markers. I can never remember which one's out and which one's in. I think this might be in. Let's find out. Yes, that was in. Okay, the other one. The one that's on the other side of the nav ball. Oh, is this supposed to be like an arrow pointing towards you? And those are the fins. And the other way saw the fins the other way? Maybe that's how you can remember it. Anyway, let's burn this out to like 15K. That'll work. And we're going to warp down to PE, where we'll turn retrograde and get into a stable orbit. Badoop, close enough. Not very circular, but it's circly enough. So where do we want to land here? Where have we already landed? We have landed in the Great Flats, that's it. Well, that makes it easy. Let's just not land in the Great Flats and we should be in good shape. I gotta admit, I'm not sure which flat is the Great Flats. But I know we can sidestep that problem by just not landing in a flat at all. So, since I would like to land in daylight, for the sake of the video, we can aim for, you know, it might be cool right around in here, actually. Let's turn on our landing marker. Turn retrograde orbit. And light engine. That was quick. Let's turn into surface referenced altimeter. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop this stage now. If we face prograde, I think that would be a good orientation to drop it. Skadoosh. Now let's face back retro. The reason I faced prograde to detach that is that slowed it down, so it'll put it into a lower orbit than us. Doesn't really matter in this case, but just a way to guarantee that it's gonna deorbit. There are some edge cases where you might use the force of the decoupler to prevent the thing from deorbiting. That's not what we want to do. Let's turn retrograde now. Fire up the engines. Let's remember to deploy the landing gear on this occasion. Started that burn way earlier than I needed to because I just wanted to get a recording of it, basically. with the engines going and the HUD off, which I'm scared to do close to the ground. Can I pull off a no HUD landing? On Minmus I probably can, because Minmus is pretty easy to land on. There we go. Okay, we're just going to sit here like we did on the moon until all of our science is complete. By the way, we should start the Mystery Goo. Oh, we haven't done our radiation scan here either. We're not exactly... Yeah, we're basically at the right time for a direct ascent. Not exactly, but basically. Which way is that? Because I would like to see if I can do a HUD-less launch. I think it's kind of this way. Okay, let's get the HUD back up because I'm scaring myself. That was pretty close, actually. That was pretty close to east. Well done. Let's point right at the horizon. Just run the engine full blast. Okay, we just want to watch this marker. Once again, about 45 kilometers would be good. We're coming in from a much higher altitude than we were from the moon, but I happen to know that 40 to 45 is still fine from here. We seem to be having a solar panel issue. Okay, we're gonna play a dangerous game here. When the arrow gets a hold of us, it should start rotating us this way and that in sort of an uncontrolled manner. But when that happens, it should give us some solar panel. There we go. Close. Let's go ahead and just dump that. We may survive this. We may survive this after all. All we still need is enough electric charge to stage the parachute after we get through the burning part of the trip. We could stage it now, actually, you know? Because it won't actually deploy until it's safe. Deploy mode set to when safe. Okay, fine. So we're going to be landing in the Highlands. That, I think, is one of the KSP ground scatter trees, as opposed to parallax ground scatter, which are these two types. The special tree. You can scan it for science. Badoop. World's first, return from Minmus. Contract complete. Recover vessel. Okay, we're up to 1.9 million spaceos. Anything we still need to upgrade? Yeah, we still need to do several upgrades, don't we? Can do the final launch. Oh, we haven't upgraded that yet either. Or that. Wow. That. So actually, this is the only thing we don't have to upgrade anymore, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so with those contracts complete, we're up to 1.9 million spaceos and 400 science. That should be enough to unlock some more life support stuff. So next time, I think we're going to look into putting up our first space stations and doing that contract for keeping a Kerbal in orbit for 30 days. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and take care.